For audiovisual work such as film and TV production, you will discover that the likes of writers, actors, music composers, and artists play a huge role when you are delving into the fascinating world of music, film, and intellectual property. So, on today's episode, we're going to explore the critical role that music plays in film, from setting the mood to enhancing emotional impact. And I'm sure the Bridgerton fans who were all mind blown by what's this Pitbull song? I'm alone. Yes, it's in 3 episode 4. Courage scene. I mean, the piano adaptation or translation was. So, we are going to look into how filmmakers can legally incorporate music into their project. So, grab your headphones, hit play, and let's explore the harmonious intersection of creativity and law. But before we do that, happy new month, guys. I know it's been a minute.
Hey guys. Hi guys. Hey guys. Hey.
This is not your average podcast, trust me. This is IPSeries, where you learn to protect and safeguard all your intellectual property so you can make a career of what you love. Join me, Rita Chinda, as we discuss all things intellectual property from the world of fashion, film, media, entertainment, dispute resolution, and even technology. Welcome. As a filmmaker, have you ever considered using music for your work, or have you ever thought, oh, how do I go about creating a music score or an album or a soundtrack um, for my movie project? And how do I generate revenue from all of this? So, first off, we're going to start or delve into what comprises of audiovisual work, which is said to be um, it comprises of a moving image, spoken dialogue, and music intertwined to achieve a common goal. But the commercial element of creating an original music or sound recording for a film is still considered to be a developing area within Nigeria, especially in exploring the various music platforms that allow consumers to have different experience and also connect better to the film in question. For instance, Bridgerton soundtrack for season 3 or all of the Bridgerton album. There's also I think and the movie that actually inspired or TV series that actually inspired this episode is the Anikulapo movie. I think this is a second edition or sequel of the original. So they basically had like an album, and you see that with a lot of foreign movies. And I think Nigerian um, film space is beginning to, explore the aspect of having original music score. Now, music as an intellectual property complements film as and intellectual property. So they are both eligible work under the Nigerian Copyright Act. And we know that copyright protects works that are in fixed or tangible format, irrespective of the quality. So it also provides the copyright owners, especially the composers in this case now, with different exclusive rights, such as the such as the right to reproduce, the right to distribute, the right to publish, adapt, translate, um, which other one again? Public performance, etc. You know, so and again, it's territorial in nature. So matters arising from it will be what is like the legal position of the film composer commercialization avenue. So I'm not focusing on music per se, but I'm focusing more on how you can actually monetize the song, especially for all interested parties. So there's a licensing option, there's a merchandise option. I think the Stranger Things season 4, Running Up That Hill is a good example. But in terms of creating um music score, we're going to consider things like the type of music licensing, what affects music copyright in film and TV production, revenue generation from OST, which basically means um hold on, guys. OST means original soundtrack. I think the film that comes to mind, Nigerian film, is that I so love. Bread of Life, Isoke, Anikulapo, which also inspired this episode. So we're going to be delving or having like a very interesting conversation today. So just stay tuned while we move to the next section. So, according to a publication by Janelle Borg, Borg, the author has stated that movie soundtrack had been a Hollywood staple since the 1920s, and it wasn't until the 1930s and the 1940s that movie soundtrack became an integral part of filmmaking. It became its popularity now led to film's popularity, and I agree. So, for instance, for me, I sometimes end up enjoying a movie because of the soundtrack. I love dance movie, and the only way I can actually fuse myself in the scene is by listening to the soundtrack afterwards and just imagining all of the scenes. Same with this other guy. I think the Interstellar composer and several other sci-fi movies. Um, the benefits for soundtrack, basically a good movie soundtrack, is exposure and reach for both the composer, the investors, um the audience, basically help push the movie, the other parties such as the actors into limelight, especially in this digital era where it's not easy to go viral, but once you go viral, you've gone viral, and you now have to milk it, kind of like the polling syndrome right now. There's an emotional connection, that it also boosts the music sales. See the likes of Run Up That Hill, I think, because it was used as the introductory part and kind of like the major theme for Stranger Things. I read about it last year or last year. I can't remember now, but I did write about it anyways. It had like a 1000% boost online. You now find that generations that did not listen or had heard your song now become really interested. You also find out that if it's a new composer, you find people wanting to know more about you. I always tell people when I have conversations about music business, this is this guy on Instagram, Daniel something. I like his breakdown on did you know this person, blah blah. I think I watched one about one meme boy that later became famous, and now he had, as me, his voice has transitioned from this tiny, 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 like voice to like a deep bass, oh, spicy voice. Um, you know, a popular movie soundtrack can also influence the direction of in trends. For instance, there's the Barbie soundtrack success, which the author alluded to. There's also the Oppenheimer soundtrack, which the author also alluded to. However, for the purpose of our conversation today, remember I said we're not going to digress. There are issues that may affect music copyright in film and TV production, that is piracy and illegal downloading. Looking at the jurisdiction where the internet service is not internet service per se, but access to these products like the music and the rest, you have to pay to get them, and you not have people that explore websites just to be able to listen to the song and keep replaying them. In film and TV production, there you need to know that there are two types of music soundtrack, and that a film producer would consider based on their budget, the composer's experience, and the amount required. So the first one would be having a composer write on original music, like it was done in Breath of Life, which won several awards in the last AMVCA. Isoke, I so much love Isoke. I really do. I think it's not just about Dakore, but I think the storyline and everything was so touching. And then Anikulapo, which also inspired this episode again, putting it out there, that were accompanied, most of the song will basically accompany the visual and spoken parts um of the film. um for composers, it's very important. I know that recently someone had asked me how a composer can generate revenue for themselves, so you need to pay attention to this one if you are advising a composer or a songwriter, um or a creative. Basically, you need to understand that you need to understand basically how film music and the film business works. Always sign an agreement to determine ownership, entitlements, and remuneration. The Copyright Act grants you automatic protection. However, depending on your jurisdiction, for instance, in Nigeria, the depository system is voluntary, but is somewhat mandatory. Whereas in jurisdiction like the US, it is mandatory that you register, else you can't sue someone for copyright infringement. You need to also consider the commercial element of music publishing. You need to understand that unless a contract exists, the film production or company or studio may generate extra income when they license the film score to a third party or a record label. So do your investigation, ensure that you are also very strategic about what you're doing. Note also that the film studio can also consider raising and generating income through merchandise sales in form of t-shirts, mugs, toys, and other products that relate to the film in question. Think big when you're talking about Toy Story, Frozen, or Marvel's movies. Like, guy, I think I've mentioned this before. That I had so much high hope for Wedding Party, but shout out to everyone's favorite cousin Imoren. I think that's his full name. And also Kemi Adetiba. When the last series of the King of Boys came out, there was like a limited merchandise collection, but this was not about the song. But then I think Anikulapo now like has upped the game now for film producers in Nigeria, so everyone needs to start thinking big. If you follow and pay attention to the Korean movie space, there's a whole lot of portfolio or catalogs for OSTs and album. I think My Demon, yeah, that was trendy. The Queen of Tears for this year, and several others. So now you have Whirlwind, and several others. I mean, so I think that's an area that if a composer in Nigeria, you need to now start building your portfolio as a music composer, so you can generate film scores for producers. You also have maybe at the beginning of your career, not think about having an agent, but later when you feel like the work is becoming so overwhelming, you might need to have like an agent or a manager to, help you filter all the briefs that coming in for you. Also, the director has a say on the kind of music and whether it will be in the final music production. So, what is now the position of a film composer? The position of a film composer would depend on ownership, who owns the right to the film score. This could be either the production company or the film composer, depending on what was signed. However, if the composer was paid handsomely and they retain the publishing rights, an agreement will stipulate whether other broader rights um, can be explored by the film production company, such as will the film be distributed at the film festival? Are they opting for like a worldwide sync or worldwide free or pay cable and subscription TV in context or out of context, TV advertising and film trailer use, including promos and other film videos, theater distribution, or future tech rights, whether now and even allowing the producer to license from them. The whether now known or later to be known. So I'm going to refer you guys to section 17 of the Nigerian Copyright Act, section 18 of the Nigerian Copyright Act, section 28, sub 1. You also need to take into consideration the fact that um, it's important to separate a score from a soundtrack completely from the film it came from. Because a film score, a good film score, may succeed because of how the effect is seen from a film. And so when you visit that film in a musical format, you're now reminded of the tone of the film, the scene on question, and your memories of having seen this work for the first time. Kind of like how it is for me when I listen to um, songs used or soundtrack used in a dance movie. Okay. Then you need to also consider the parties involved. You have composers, songwriters, agents, studio executive, directors, producers, music supervisor, and anyone involved in film. Now, there's a pressing question of whether can scores be used in opening and closing credit. What do you think? Send me an email to ipseriesinfo@gmail.com and tell me your answer, but I may also share the answer. Now, music credits would basically have like details of the song and scores that was used in a film. It will include the title, the artist, the composer, the publisher, and any other copyright related information of each musical, whereas if there were any licensing or permission details, you also need to add credit for any original or performed music that was created or commissioned for your film. So you should also indicate where and how the music was used in your film, such as the opening, the closing, or the background. Do you agree with me? If you do not, I'm always open to learning. Okay. Things you need to consider during negotiation as a composer. First is lyric change. Um, does a film company or production company have the right to change the lyrics? Remember, copyright grants you both economic right to earn and moral right to prevent third parties or anyone from distorting or mutilating your copyrighted work so it doesn't cause damage to your reputation. Then you have plot summary, um, copy of the new lyrics, scene description, how long the song will be considered. Will there be restriction to use and change lyrics, license duration, multiple uses of a song, e.g., opening credits and scenes in the film, territory, limited theatrical distribution, new multimedia uses, especially now where the conversation about incorporating artificial intelligence in the film industry, entertainment, and media space is being heavily debated. This arrangement is usually non exclusive. There is a guaranteed future compensation in form of royalties. Screen credit will basically appear in the closing for the composition. Intellectual property rights are also assigned after the commission work has been concluded or delivered to the producer. How can a composer and a film production company maximize revenue from original soundtrack sales? Um, how do you go about collecting passive revenues, marketing strategy prior to release of the film? Are there um, strategies for soundtrack sales via streaming platforms? Um, Basically, revenue that can be generated from streams for film soundtrack will be from a well curated soundtrack, which will basically enhance the film's appeal. Um, Album sale can be generated through original soundtracks, album sales, where fans can buy this OST separately. There's also sync licensing deals where filmmakers can license the soundtrack for commercials, TV show, and other media format, thereby earning extra revenue um, for themselves. Hold on. Then challenges sometimes would include budget constraints, especially with regards to licensing fees. Some licensing fee can be really expensive. I know someone was asking or telling me one time, oh yeah, I spoke to someone and he was talking about how you have um composers or creatives who licensing rates who see licensing of works to be very expensive. They are trying to create like a marketplace for people to be able to access licensing deal within their budget or that are not too expensive. You also have creative constraints where filmmakers may compromise an artistic vision due to licensing limitation. Then you have issues with unauthorized use of the music, which may lead to lawsuits affecting the film release and strategies and financial success. Um, Copyright and licensing issues in relation to securing sync, mechanical, and public performance licensing. So you're able to avoid um, expensive litigations and also ensure proper compensation for the use of the music. Allocating funds, I think I already talked about budget restraint. Allocating funds wisely for music licensing, strategize original soundtracks and album sales to maximize revenue. Beware of legal challenges such as copyright infringement claims which can affect your film release. Under the new Copyright Act, there's provision under Section 54 for dealing with online related disputes where someone can take down the online soundtrack album um, for infringement purpose, especially when you have not cleared or gotten license to use certain elements of a musical work. I think we had, so this is not related to film, but there was a dispute between a music producer, an artist, and some other music producer. So ensure that you avoid all of that as a music scorer or a music supervisor or a composer. Get the right music licensing, understand how copyright applies to film, music, and film business. Um, Remember that the right soundtrack can elevate your film, but with the wrong move, it can just lead you to a path that you never planned for. You need to have a solid understanding of the basis of music licensing, copyright compliance, royalties, opportunities in the film industry, whether you're a music composer, filmmaker, music enthusiast. Um, are there available alternatives to licensing music where you're required to now create original composition or collaborate with independent artists? Or do you adopt using royalty free music libraries? And you need to now look at the pros and cons of doing that. Um, how would copyright apply to music compositions and sound recording? Those are some of the things that I would like to draw to our attention. Next, we'll be delving into consideration for payments. As a composer, you need to ask yourself, is it a major studio release? Is it an independent studio feature? Will it premiere at a film festival? Is it a student film? What is the type of use of visual, vocal, background? And you need to also know that an original song curated for a film is usually done in a work for hire arrangement or contract for service. And Section 28, Sub 1 of Nigerian Copyright Act will guide you. Performing right consent. If you are a composer, I would advise you to join a collective management organization. There's a recent um, judgment that was given in Kenya where they now have only one copyright hmm, CMO rather, a collective management organization. In Nigeria, we have the MCSN. Also specify in your agreement if you are going to use a pre-recorded or an existing music. Now remember that in the jurisdiction like the US, a writer can trigger the reversion or revocation rights by getting their song back from the film studio if it's not used in the film. So, what are the benefits for songwriters and composers? Lifelong revenue generation, visibility, and portfolio enlargement. Um, yeah, so you need to also take into consideration things like pre-recording restriction. I mean, the Taylor Swift's case is like it kind of like shook the music industry, so we need to learn from that. And also, I think when Kanye was having his own issues where he posted like over 100 threads on X, formerly Twitter. Also need to take I mean basically Taylor Swift dispute, should it be time bound? Know the difference between what is a film score and a soundtrack. A film score is basically an original music tailored for a music specifically, while soundtrack is a collection of carefully chosen songs included in the movies or series or TV production or TV show. It is advisable that you keep your cue sheet close so you can track your royalty payment. Available income stream for existing record that the publisher or manager can explore would include public performance income, recording royalties, synchronization fee, mechanical royalty, a master reuse fee, name, image, likeness, right? Usually licensed alongside the sound recording. Um, you need to also have like um, motive for composing a song or wanting to have a song composed for your work. Film score helps one remember the theme, melody, and as a composer, this will have a direct effect on your income or royalty. And if you own the publishing, and is useful to many generations, we need to have like a data showcasing how much composers make, and also compare it with the US data. How to score a film is a work or a publication I want you guys to check out. How to score a film on YouTube by Pete Calendra. You need to know that film music is a commercial act. So, do you think there are challenges associated with using music for a movie or TV show? So, in wrapping up, I would say in an era where um, building community is very important, I would say that film composers or music composers, film production companies should look for ways to engage fans and build like a healthy community. That way, they're able to market the film's score or soundtrack. Um, they can create groups. I mean, a lot of people are exploring the use of hashtag challenges, contests, polls, quizzes that involves the film music. I mean, I think when the part two of Bridgerton was about to come out, there were a lot of user generated content that was created. And I think that's something that we need to now take into consideration. Um, so if you're a composer listening to me, know that the future is bright for you, especially because I mean now the Nigerian music industry is booming, and if you do your investigation, and if you also learn the business aspect of being a music composer, you can build a strong online presence. You can also explore using or harnessing the power of social media, um, looking beyond the studio, such as live performances and tours, maximizing revenue from in person performances, understanding digital music distribution, also networking in the music business space. You need it. Um, what else? Have have a good monetization strategy, and for filmmakers, look for ways to boost the film music, and I think everyone goes on happy at the end of the day. So thank you once again for listening to me babble about intellectual property related issue. Um, I hope we all learned something, but to the loose, guys. Thank you for listening to IP Series Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to share it with your friends, family, and colleagues. You can also follow us on Instagram at IPSeries with Esmeraldo ESQ, or Twitter at IPSeries1, or send us an email to ipseriesInfo@gmail.com. Until next time, stay tuned and stay informed.